Okay. Okay, so question 1, why should identification practices be aligned with services? And Julie, thanks for helping me find exactly where that was.
Sure. Yeah, it was a little hard to find, for sure. Because that first part seemed like it was mostly talking about testing bias. So I thought that was interesting. Let me find it.
So do you want to cover it since you found it, or?
Let's see if I can find it again. Yeah, that first part I was a little confused about. I guess that part didn't really, the first part that I mentioned on page 43 said that it didn't seem to explain why you should, or why they should be aligned. It seemed more like it was talking about like the rationale for avoiding testing bias. But then I guess later in the chapter, it does talk a little bit more about the why, and about just kind of being focused on like what areas of giftedness are being served, and are they related to traditional academic content areas, or are they student interest driven? So just kind of focusing on that with the identification process.
And I took it to be like, why should identification align with services? Like the tools that we're using for identification need to match what their skill services are. So like if they're, we should have, I guess it's why you use, multiple assessments or whatever, because if you're gifted in math, but you're being assessed on a test that's primarily, written language arts, then that's where you get all the bias and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I got from that too. Like, you shouldn't be using this test to identify students if it has nothing to, like, no relation to what they're going to actually be doing. Like, you shouldn't be, like, you should be like identifying them with a test or like with an assessment or something that they're going to see again, and not just giving them like something totally random that they're never going to see again, because then that's not going to, like, if they're not getting services like that, and that's just, I feel like, yeah, it's totally biased and random.
Yeah, and it just wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. But
Anything else?
That one.
Okay. Next question. Should students be identified for gifted services if the program does not serve their talent area? Why or why not?
Yeah, I think they still need to be identified.
Robin, I liked what you said about then they should be identified, and then it's up to us to kind of figure out how to best serve them depending on their talent areas. I agree with that.
Yeah, because I'm wondering in what situation would, well, I guess maybe the creative piece, but I'm wondering in what situation their talents would not be serviced. I mean, that's certainly by all means not meeting the needs of any child.
Right.
But
well, I mean, for example, I don't know, I can't help you with music or anything.
Right.
I mean, if that is your talent, then I'm going to have to find people that can help you, because I can't help you grow to your full potential.
Well, and I think you said something very important, like I need to seek out people that can help you. Where in a lot of cases, and I can speak from experience of what I've seen in the schools, that part is not happening. A lot of these kids, like their needs are, somebody who can help them is not being sought out, I guess. It's kind of like reading and math. Like if you're certified in those two, then your needs are going to be met. And that's where I realized as soon as the words started coming out of my mouth that it's the creative piece, I guess, is the one that a lot of times they're missing out on.
Yeah, because it's not like a tested or like it's not academic. So like there's not as much emphasis placed on that, I think.
Mhm.
So like I don't even know if any of my kids in my classroom are like labeled creatively gifted. I know the ones that are like labeled TD, but those were like reading and math TD, not like anything else.
But I
So
think that's where like the interest surveys and things like that, even if we're not if they're not testing them for identification purposes, like when we're doing our interest inventories and problem-based learning and stuff, then some of their creativity can come out. And I keep going back to that. It was very early in this process, but that article, Do Schools Kill, or no, it was a TED Talk, Do Schools Kill Creativity? And I'm constantly like, and I did that Scamper activity and they're like, oh, I don't know what else you can do with a water bottle. And I'm like, I'm killing their creativity. They just, because they're not creative. But, I just keep going back to that. And then it's up to us to find stuff that feeds into that part of them.
Yeah.
well, and I think too that's where a lot of like differentiation or like even like choice boards or stuff like that to give them choice. So they might not be getting services per se, like labeled services for being creatively gifted, but they're having the opportunity to use their creativity.
Yeah, I actually have one of my 5th graders. He's certified, but I think he was certified through portfolio, and so he's more creatively gifted than academically, because I mean, he is definitely one of my lower of the TD students. And I think his former teacher in 3rd grade said that he came into the program on a reading level H. So he was like really low. But he totally excels with everything like creative and art and things like that. So I do try to incorporate those, like you were saying, Jordan, like the choice boards and giving them other activities instead of just like answering multiple choice questions from a reading passage. So anytime we do anything creative where he gets to use art, he just excels. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think giving them the option to reach out to an expert, is a lot of times something that we don't encourage them to do or think about it or honestly have the time to encourage them to do. But, we are putting together that compacting assignment. That's when I kind of remembered about, when I taught the lower grades, the kids got to do a lot more research and that sort of thing. And now being in upper elementary, where sometimes we're so focused on what's being tested that we forget about all that stuff that really encourages their learning.
And I also mentioned in my the Google Docs the school-wide enrichment model, and we do that at my school, and so that really helps him too, because then he gets the chance to do something that's more interest-based, where he can like really grow those talents. So I think that's a cool opportunity for them too.
Right, and then also putting them in touch with the mentors and online classes or summer programs or field trip, tapping into what their specific skills are.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think they should definitely be identified.
Yeah,
for sure.
Are we ready?
yes.
All right, what does it mean to provide comprehensive programming for gifted students? All right.
Yeah,
Go
Robin,
ahead.
you had a great answer. Do you want to talk about what you had? I was just reading over your answer.
I mean, it was just straight from the book. So, I mean, I feel silly just like reiterating it, but on page 63, table 5.1, identify for a comprehensive program, who is being served, how are they identified, what models are used, what types of learning opportunities, services provided, when are the services provided, and then also aligning them with the National Association for Gifted Children pre-K to grade 12 gifted programming standards and student outcomes. So that, I mean, I know that's just like regurgitating it from the book, but that's how I learned something about it.
Yeah, it seemed like it's just basically an all-encompassing like way that you should build every gifted program. It just seemed to cover every important aspect of building a program that's really going to meet the needs of all students and with all different talents. So
Yeah, I think asking all those questions instead of like, okay, here's my lesson, great. But like if you're like sitting down and like saying, okay, well, who will be served? Let me answer this question. Like that's like really breaking apart your lesson, like you said, Julie, to make sure the needs are being met instead of just like throwing together a lesson like this looks good, let's do this, it's TD, whatever. But like taking the time to like plan it out and look at it piece by piece and really make sure that it's going to meet the needs of your students.
Well, I think it's also looking at the school's program. The comprehensive programming is like outlining
everybody, yeah,
the whole school's program or whatever. And then I think an important piece of this is that they evaluate, they take those questions and they say, okay, they start by saying, what is our school doing to answer all these questions? And then you move you get a task force together to improve on any of those, like that's how you make changes to the current plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that as a school-wide thing because, or even like at a district level, because I feel like even though we're all in the same district, we all have different like TD programs and plans and stuff. And so getting it more like unified at school level, but then even taking it up to a district level, I think would be really good.
Yeah.
Or even somewhere kind of in the middle of that, if there could be, like how we're broken up into learning communities, or even the population, putting together combining a team of teachers that work in similar populations, just because they vary so much throughout Charlotte. If we could get together with other teachers and create a team focused on the population of those schools and maybe meet the needs of those individual kids a little better.
Yeah. Anything else about that one?
Mm-mm. And then I thought the last one kind of is the same thing. So help me understand if I'm misreading it. When you consider providing comprehensive programming for gifted students, what does that entail? Should schools even attempt to provide comprehensive programming? I mean,
yeah, I think that at least the first question seems to go over what you already talked about, Robin, those 6 questions that you should focus on or be asking yourselves as you're building this program. That's what I took from that.
yeah, and I mean, to me, it's kind of like, should schools even attempt to provide it? Well, yeah, I mean, of course they should. If they want a highly effective, gifted, and talented program, then they have to. I mean, I just was thought, no, maybe I'm misreading that because that just seems really obvious.
I'll just write in our type up. Yes. The question.
I mean, in an ideal world, it seems, like an obvious no-brainer, but, in the real world, how much investment is there in that school? I mean,
Well, I think
it's unfortunate, but.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I think about like and I think it was with the last cycle, I think that we like talked about how like there's so much time. Yeah, if there's going to be time to talk about like needs of students, I feel like a lot of time is spent on like the EC students. And so I feel like if there's time to, even consider this comprehensive programming, I feel like they wouldn't use that time for the TD kids. It'd be used for like EC stuff, just because I feel like that place, and well, at least what I've seen, like the EC kids have a greater, like they try and get their needs met before they get the TD kids' needs met. Like definitely, yeah, they should definitely attempt to do it. But like, is that, like you said, Stacey, is that a reality? Like, probably not.
Well, and the reality is I shouldn't say gifted, because high ability learners, gifted or not, nationwide aren't making the growth that our EC kids are making. So of course that's great for the EC population, but it is time for a change for those high ability learners too. They're not making the growth.
Yeah.
Because our school, they're like, oh, those kids are already going to make 4s and 5s. Like, we don't need to spend as much time on them. We need to spend time on these kids that are making 2s and make sure they make 3s or, stuff like that. So I feel like like you said, like they're not focusing on the ED kids, which isn't fair because they have needs that need to be met.
For sure.
if we started doing a better comprehensive programming for these kids, then we could maybe see more growth and stuff for them.
I like how the book had, like, at the end of or the new book, Designing Services and Programs, they had the whole for sole practitioners. So for people who are kind of alone in the process, you know, that they had some steps that they could take too. Thought that was cool.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. And yeah, I think doing this comprehensive program would be very time consuming and it would take a lot of effort, but it does seem like, I mean, it just pulls together everything that is important when serving gifted students. It talks about like making sure that teachers, administrators, and parents know what their needs, the gifted students' needs are and how they will be met, and designing the clear program and implementing it and things like that. So it just seemed like it's a great way to look at planning a program, but yeah, in reality, it would be hard, I think.
But yeah, you gotta start somewhere. And
Yeah.
I know we've talked like how different the TV program is at our schools. Like if all schools at least tried this, at least that'd be something, you know, uniform or, you know, that we all had in common in our TV programs that we could keep working towards.
Right.
We're going to make the change in CMS.
Yeah, we are. Look at us go.
Yay.
All start comprehensive programming at our schools.
Yeah.
So how
Anything
much,
else? This one?
anything else before we stop?
Does it tell you how much time we've recorded, Stacy?
It has not that I am aware of.
I know, I was looking for it. I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
But does it say recording?
Yeah, the little red thing is on.
Yeah, it just usually says when we've gone 30 minutes because it gives us a warning that we're going to be shut off, as we were last week, just
Yeah,
gone.
in the middle of talking. Okay, anything else for this discussion? We can turn it off. All right, I will probably type this up tonight or tomorrow and just make sure you guys have time to review it before submitting.
Okay. Cool.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Should I stop the recording?
Yeah.
Are you all good with that?
Mm-hmm.